Good morning et bienvenue. I am Stephen Saideman, Director of the Canadian Defense and Security Network and a professor at the Norman Paterson School of International Affairs. Welcome to the Year Ahead 2021. When the Center for Security Intelligence Defense Studies, CSIDS, held the same conference a year ago, we had little idea that a few months later, a global health crisis would touch us all in such profound and significant ways. COVID-19 has upended the way we work, the way we teach, the way we interact with our families, colleagues, and loved ones. It has caused ripple effects across many sectors and across the world. Thankfully, a vaccine is around the corner, and we look forward to seeing you all in person in the very near future. However, COVID-19 has brought unprecedented changes in many areas, and there's no going back to the way things were before the pandemic. The security, intelligence, and defense landscape is no exception. For the year ahead, 2021, we hope to unpack some of these changes and their impacts on Canada and the challenges and opportunities that we can leverage going forward. The City of Ottawa is normally the perfect place to hold this event, as it is the nexus of government and academia. We held the Year Ahead conference for the past 5 years at the War Museum, giving the folks in town and beyond varied perspectives on what to be expecting in the near future. Initially, the Year Ahead was a CSIDS event, but with the creation of the Canadian Defense and Security Network, the CDSN, there's now a combined CDSN CSIDS event aiming to foster the exchange of knowledge between the academic, public, and private sectors. As the director of the CDSN, it gives me great pride to see this event continue despite the challenging circumstances. Stephanie Plante, the director of the CSIDS, has done an incredible job building the program and working with AV people to deliver this conference. Melissa Jennings, the director of communications of the CDSN, has promoted this event well, and we'll be posting the videos and slides on the CDSN and CSIDS websites. Our team of research assistants has helped in a variety of ways to set this event up, and we'll be taking notes and generating briefing notes and reports. We're most grateful to the SHIRK Partnership Program for funding our staff, to the Carleton for funding our graduate students, and to the Department of National Defense's MINDS program for funding the conference itself. We built our program after conversations with CDS partners about the issues facing us. Among these partners, not just research centers at Queen's, Laval, Manitoba, Calgary, and other universities, but also CANSOF Command, Project Plowshares, and many others. Obviously, China stands out as our primary concern these days: how to deal with a belligerent rising power from a position of relative weakness. Our first panel will address the China problem. The second panel will address the pandemic itself. The pandemic has harmed more Canadians than any of the wars and other conflicts that Canada's faced since World War II. And this panel will take a global perspective, looking at not just how Canada's reacted to this, but how other countries have experienced the pandemic. Russia has, along with other countries, developed a variety of ways to challenge us using unconventional responses: asymmetrical warfare, hybrid warfare, gray zone conflict. We hear these terms all the time. So we have a panel addressing that as well. We'll have a keynote speaker, Ambassador for Women, Peace and Security, Jacqueline O'Neill. And then we'll have our Diversity and Fireside Chat, a relatively recent addition to the Year Ahead program, as one of the core objectives of the CDSN is to foster a more equitable, diverse, and inclusive defense and security community. As a side note, 2 of last year's speakers at the Fireside Chat are now serving on Biden's transition teams. We understand that most people can't stare at their screens all day long, so we'll keep on schedule so that people can attend whichever sessions interest them the most. You should be able to post the questions via the chat or Q&A feature as you watch, but if you cannot, send your questions to info@cdsn-rcds.com. That's info@cdsn-rcds.com. Since I'm going to be involved in today's events, I will not be able to live tweet as I like to do so, but you can using the hashtag YearAhead2021. Again, the hashtag is YearAhead2021. With the help of the experts we will hear from today and from the engagement from those watching online, we can exchange perspectives, share ideas, present some research, and develop some strategies. And most importantly, try to develop some solutions to the problems that challenge us in the year ahead. Our conference this year will be streamed live and eventually be available on CPAC as well as on the CDSN website. Finally, we'd like to acknowledge that the Year Ahead 2021 is virtual, but Carleton is located on unceded Algonquin territory, which is home to the Anishinaabe Nation. Given the bilingual nature of the City of Ottawa and in line with recommendations of Carleton's Accessibility Network, we have provided both simultaneous translation in French and in English, as well as ASL interpretation. If there are any technical issues with anything today, please reach out to Stephanie Plante at cunet.carleton.ca. That is Stephanie Plante, Plante, @cunet.carleton.ca. stephanie.carleton.ca. And Stephanie is spelled with a PH. And now I'd like to ask Professor Teddy Samy, the director of the Norman Paterson School of International Affairs at Carleton University, to open the conference. Thank you.
Mon nom est Teddy Samy et je suis le directeur de la Norman Paterson School of International Affairs à l'Université Carleton. On behalf of our school and the university, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to this year's edition of the Year Ahead Conference. J'aimerais vous souhaiter à tous et à toutes la bienvenue à cette conférence. Étant en situation de pandémie, nous sommes obligés de nous rencontrer virtuellement cette année. Je tiens donc à remercier mon collègue Steve Saideman, qui est professeur et titulaire de la chaire Paterson en études internationales, et Stéphanie Plante, qui est directrice du Center for Security, Intelligence and Defense Studies, de continuer cette tradition de tenir cette conférence annuelle au mois de décembre, et ce pour une 6e année consécutive.
For the 6th year.
Conceived under then Director of CSIDS, Dr. Rob McCrae, the objective of the Year Ahead Conference is to provide an opportunity for experts from academia and the public sector to have a conversation about international security challenges that the Canadian government and its closest allies are likely to face. As in previous years, we again have a great agenda that reflects the spirit of this conference. We look forward to different panels during the day on China and Russia, on health and security, on diversity, and of course a keynote address by Ms. Jacqueline O'Neill, Canada's first ambassador for women, peace and security. Let me thank all the speakers who have agreed to spend some time with us today. And last but certainly not least, let me thank the sponsors who have made today's conference possible, in particular, the Department of National Defense through its MINDS program, the Faculty of Public Affairs at Carleton University, and the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. Merci et bonne conférence.
Thank you and have a great conference.
Healthy wherever you are. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Teddy. I'm really happy to have this event. I'm sorry that we can't do this in person. I think one of the best things about this event is when we actually get to meet each other and have chats over the coffee. It's also pleasurable to meet the speakers the night before, usually over food and a beverage or two. And alas, we can't do that. But the pandemic has affected us all in a variety of ways. And these inconveniences are small compared to a lot of the things that are going on around the world these days. What's going to happen is the actual panel will start in 5 minutes at about 9:15. Throughout the day, we are going to have breaks in between the panels because we know that staring at screens for unending hours is unsustainable. We inflict that upon our students, but I don't want to inflict that upon those watching at home today or in your offices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk for a couple minutes about the CDSN and CSIDS, and then we'll go into our China panel where we have 3 great speakers, Roland Paris, Don Murphy, and Cesar Jaramillo, who will be speaking about China, which is once again in the news. It's almost as much in the news as Donald Trump these days, given the current negotiations that are going on between the United States and China over the return of the Huawei executive. So sometime over the course of the panel, we may have breaking news that cause us to be a little less worried about one small element that has dominated the Canadian-Chinese relationship. But before I start the panel, and we're going to try to stick to our schedule of all day long so that people can come and go, I'd just like to say, again, thanks to everybody involved, from Baldwin AV to Minds Network to Stephanie Plante, who is the project coordinator, who will be wrapping up the conference at the end of the day, to Melissa Jennings, who is our Director of Communications, to our team of graduate students. There's a lot of people working on this, and hopefully this conference today will be very much like that duck that looks smooth, but all the paddles are working really, really hard below the surface that you cannot see. Of course, saying that probably spoils that image entirely. Anyhow, this conference has got multiple sponsors behind it and multiple organizers. The key is that CSIDS is the Carleton-based research center that tries to build bridges between Carleton and its professors who do defense, security, and intelligence stuff with the town and beyond. The CDSN is a national-wide network that tries to do the same thing, but on a bigger scale, bridging the defense and security network community that exists in academia, in the military, in the government, and in the private sector. So we have a variety of events that coming up that Stephanie Plant at the end of the day will highlight and plug. I'll just plug Battle Rhythm, the podcast of the CDSN. I'm the co-host with Stephanie Von Latke, and it appears every other Wednesday. So we'll have an episode dropping this next Wednesday, which will be the last one of 2020. And boy, are we looking forward to the end of 2020, aren't we? And that last episode will be a year in review where we'll think about the good things that happened in 2020, because we've been only too well aware of the challenges that we've all faced in this very, very difficult year. And if you have questions for us for the Battle of the Podcast, you can send them to info@cdsn-rcds.com or tweet at either me, SMS Saideman, Saideman, or at SVHLATKY, Stephanie Von Latke's Twitter account. And that's the first time I've had to try to spell that out loud without looking at it. So anyhow, the way today's going to work is we're going to have the first panel will be on China and the challenge that it poses to Canadian relations. The second panel will be on, what is the second panel on? Oh, on global health and security, where we're going to have a panel of people from around the world. Andy Knight and Aaron Gibson-Bronshot have brought together a group of panelists from the Caribbean, South Africa, and elsewhere to talk about their experiences with the pandemic. One thing that we need to do a better job of in Canada is learn about the responses of countries around the world, and particularly the ones that we don't hear about so much. You know, we're so obsessed with the American experience that we really need to learn from other places. And so that panel is going to be really helpful for that. Then we're going to have a bit of a break so that way I can grab lunch and hopefully you can too. Unfortunately, we're not providing it for you this year. And then we will have the keynote speech by Ambassador Jacqueline O'Neill, the Ambassador for Women, Peace and Security. And then after that, we'll have our fireside diversity chat where we'll have several speakers discuss their experiences of the Canadian defense and security environment from the perspective of people who are usually not all that well represented and often not heard from. And then the last panel will be on gray zone warfare. This is something the Russians have been doing, but it's not just the Russians using sort of asymmetric means to mess with us and to mess with our friends around the world. So that's a brief summary of today's events. And there will be breaks, as I said, over the course of the day, because we do want you to get a chance to get your coffee and whatever else you need to sustain yourself while staring at screens all day long. I do think it's going to be a very fascinating day. The topics we chose this year were based on consultations with people in government, with the partners of the Canadian Defense and Security Network. Although, of course, saying we should be talking about China is pretty obvious call, of course, given its dominance over the past few years in our defense picture. We did not decide to discuss the United States because when we were organizing this, we really didn't know what kind of reality we'd be facing over the next 4 years, and neither did the Americans at the time we organized this. I think the Biden administration will present different kinds of challenges, but that we'll be probably talking about that in next year ahead once we figured out the patterns and rhythms of that administration.